recesses of the wilderness, just beyond the reach of man, lurks a mysterious creature, neither man nor beast. A missing link lost to our primordial past. A creature of unspeakable evil. Until one day, when this ancient being was disturbed and unleashed. Witness the wrath and vengeance of this terrifying monster with your very own eyes. Return of the Squath. A Clovis Rodriguez Hamilton film coming to a theater near you.
This is Augie Macro with Cryptid Creatures. Today, rather than talking about a new cryptid, we will be revisiting the subject of our very first episode, the most famous cryptid of them all, Bigfoot. Bigfoot and its counterparts across the world are described as being 4 to 15 foot tall humanoid ape-like creatures with large feet, brown, black, reddish, gray, beige, or even white fur, long ape-like arms with large hands, a muscular build overall, broad shoulders, thick neck, red or green glowing eyes, which may be reflective in the same way that cat's eyes are, and a conical head with a tall sagittal crest, which is the ridge along the back of the skull of apes that connects to their neck. There are many strange phenomena that are often associated with Bigfoot, including howls, whoops, and wood knocks, which are all believed to be a means of communication for the creatures. Footprints, tree structures, which are suspected to be used as landmarkers, or in some cases even shelter. Rocks and boulders, which are said to be thrown at the eyewitnesses, probably for defense. And snapped tree limbs, which are also believed to serve a similar purpose to the tree structures. Though Bigfoot is most recognized for its sightings in the Pacific Northwest of the United States in Washington, Oregon, and California, there are accounts and variants and legends of creatures like Bigfoot that occur all across the world, on every continent except for Antarctica, and by virtually every culture except for the ones in Polynesia. In the small town of Fouke in southwestern Arkansas near the swamps of the Sulphur River, there were a rash of reports of a large Bigfoot-like creature that resided in these swamps in the 1970s. The creature eventually became known as the Fouke Monster, or the Beast of Boggy Creek. And it was immortalized in the 1972 horror film, The Legend of Boggy Creek, which is based on the real accounts of the eyewitnesses at the time, and is meant to reenact them in a dramatized way. In the small town of Louisiana, Missouri, along the Mississippi River, between 1971 and 1972, there was a rash of sightings of a strange Bigfoot-like creature, which they dubbed Momo, the Missouri Monster. It was described as being extremely shaggy, with long matted black fur that covered its face and its hands and any discernible features. And some even believed it to be an alien entity from another planet, because at the same time there was a rash of UFO sightings, strange lights in the sky and voices in the woods. For centuries, in the swamps along the Gulf Coast of the United States, particularly around the Everglades in southern Florida, there have been reports of a strange swamp-dwelling Bigfoot-like creature which has been named the Skunk Ape due to its horrid odor. One of Bigfoot's more famous counterparts is the Yeti, or the abominable snowman, which is said to reside in the Himalayan mountains of Nepal, Tibet, Bhutan, and northern India. The creature is described as being a 5 to 8 foot tall ape-like creature that has thick, shaggy, white, brown, or gray fur and is said to eat yaks and berries and even people occasionally in the mountain. In the tropical jungles of Sumatra and Indonesia, there are stories of a small 4 foot tall orangutan-like creature known as the orang pendek, which is described as having red or blonde fur and the ability to walk on 2 legs. Some believe that the orang pendek may be a relative of orangutans that is adapted to walk along the ground, while others believe that it might be a descendant of one of the long-lost pygmy human species that used to reside in the archipelagos of Indonesia during the last ice age, such as Homo floresiensis or the Hobbit man, which resided on the island of Flores. Even in the outbacks of Australia, there are tales of Bigfoot-like creatures. Primarily, a large 8 foot tall, predatory, saber-toothed Bigfoot known as the Yowie, which is said to hunt kangaroos and even people, and has been doing so for thousands of years according to Aboriginal legends in the area. Other famous Bigfoots include the Honey Island Swamp Monster of Louisiana, the Yucamar of Chile and Argentina, the Grey Man of Ben Macdui in Scotland, the Agagwe of Tanzania and Kenya and Eastern Africa, the Yeren of China, the Almas of Siberia and Mongolia, the Hibagon of Japan, the Bumble of the North Pole, and the Albatwitch of Columbia, Pennsylvania. Here we are at Chickies Rock County Park along the Susquehanna River near the small town of Columbia, Pennsylvania, where for centuries there have been reports of a strange hair-covered hominid in these woods. It is referred to as the Albatwitch. The Albatwitch is described as being a small 4 foot tall, gray or brown hair-covered humanoid creature similar to a Bigfoot. It is known for stealing apples, and it is thought that the name comes from a corruption of the term apple snitch. The story originates in Pennsylvania Dutch folklore, but still continues to this day. Will we ever be able to fully understand this strange hominid creature and its apple-stealing habits? We may never know. The term Bigfoot first appears in 1958, whenever a logging company out of 6 Rivers National Forest in Humboldt County, California, discovered a trackway of 16-inch long human-like footprints at their site. Along with these tracks, they claimed that 450-pound oil drums that were also there had been moved inexplicably during the night, and they even reported sighting strange ape-like creatures in the woods. However, this was not the first time hairy wildmen had been reported in the Pacific Northwest, and tales of them go back thousands of years in the native tribal legends. In fact, the Hauka-Malem word Saskets, meaning hairy man, eventually developed into the English word Sasquatch. One of the most infamous of these legends is that of the Ape Canyon incident, which occurred in the summer of 1924 in what is now referred to as Ape Canyon, near Mount St. Helens in Washington state. According to the legend, a group of gold prospectors were attacked by a group of large, hair-covered hominid creatures, which were said to throw boulders at the prospectors from the top of a cliff along the canyon. This prompted one of the men to shoot at one of the creatures 3 times, sending it over the edge of the cliff. That night, when the prospectors were safely back in their cabin, the creatures returned, sieging their cabin, breaking windows, throwing boulders, and leaving giant humanoid footprints in their wake. The prospectors survived and told their story to the locals in the area, instilling fear in the population. By far, the most well-known and hotly debated piece of Bigfoot evidence is the Patterson-Gimlin film, which was supposedly filmed on October 20th, 1967, near Bluff Creek, a tributary of the Klamath River in Northern California. According to the legend, two men named Roger Patterson and Bob Gimlin were horseback riding along the creek whenever they encountered a large, hair-covered hominid creature. They just happened to have a film camera with them and were filming the scenery. Because of this, they captured what is perhaps the best photographic evidence of Bigfoot in history. Though the authenticity of the film has been disputed ever since its debut, both Patterson and Gimlin went to their graves claiming that it was in fact a real Bigfoot. And there are plenty of details within the footage itself that point to its reality. For instance, there is musculature that can be seen underneath of the fur. There are no seams anywhere along the body. And the metatarsals of the foot, which are the bones that make up the arch of a human foot, in humans, these bones do not move. They're fused. They can't flex or bend. But in apes, they can. And in the footage, the foot flexes as though the metatarsals are not fused as they are in apes. If there was a human inside of that costume, there was no way his foot would be able to bend that way. Another interesting detail is that the creature has breasts, implying that it is a female. And since Bigfoot is usually seen as a he, it wouldn't make sense, or at least it would be improbable, that someone who was hoaxing this would even think of that, let alone add that detail. To substantiate the authenticity of the film, other pieces of evidence were also collected, including footprint casts like this one. Apparently, this is a real track that was taken by Patterson and Gimlin from the Bluff Creek site. And we bought this off of Lauren Coleman, a prestigious cryptozoologist who owns the International Cryptozoology Museum in Portland, Maine, which we had the opportunity to visit in Season 1, Episode 5, the Museum Special. If you'd like to learn more, check it out. Another regional version of the Bigfoot legend is the Ohio Grassman, which is said to roam the wooded areas of the Buckeye State. To learn more, we visited Cuyahoga Valley National Park in northeastern Ohio. Here we are at Brandywine Falls in Cuyahoga Valley National Park, outside of the city of Akron, Ohio, where for decades there have been reports of a strange hominid creature in these woods. It is locally referred to as the Ohio Grassman. In reality, the title Grassman is used more as an umbrella term for any and all Bigfoot-type sightings in the state of Ohio. And the name itself originates from the handful of grass and hut or nest-like structures that have been found in association with the creature. Sightings of this creature date all the way back to Indian times, when they were referred to as the wild ones of the woods, and they were given offerings of food as a sign of peace and respect. However, since then, many of their sightings have been accompanied by more aggressive behaviors, such as throwing of rocks and even attacking of witnesses, making many people believe that it is a more violent relative of the more common Bigfoot. The first officially recognized sighting in modern times comes from 1978 in the small town of Minerva, Ohio, where a local family reported a multitude of encounters with a strange Bigfoot-like creature in and around their own house. They described it as being a large 6 to 7 foot tall hominid creature with long, dark, matted fur, and it always seemed to face its palms out whenever it walked. It eventually became known as the Minerva Monster and became the town's local legend. Will this mysterious creature and its aggressive nature ever be explained, or will it just remain a legend of the Buckeye State? We may never know. We had the opportunity to interview paranormal researcher, founder of the Agents of the Unexplained research group and podcast, and eyewitness to the Grassman, Bill Rigby. How'd you first get involved in the paranormal research, cryptid stuff?
I was 14 years old. I saw a UFO. I was told to keep my big mouth shut. You didn't see a thing. But from my mom, and I found out why, because back then, this was early, mid-70s, and people condemned you for it. So I had to keep my mouth shut until I got older. The Patterson-Gimlin film of Patty, I was a true believer, but I didn't think they were around this area. They're out west or up in Canada. 5 years ago, I started researching again, because I'm seeing tree structures. I hunted in West Virginia, New York, PA, Ohio, and I'm like, I'm seeing these all over. There gotta be some correlation to this. So I got on the internet, started researching, and kept coming back to Bigfoot. I got invited by a group in Ohio to go to Salt Fork State Park. Salt Fork is known to be the hottest spot in Ohio to find Bigfoot, or as they call it, the Ohio Grassman. First night there, I met Mike Bennett, one of that group's members, and my friend Debbie, she came to camp out too. And Mike goes, "You guys want to go ride around, see what we can find?" Sure, I'm down. So we're riding around, hitting several spots. Didn't really see anything other than it's a beautiful park. I like this park. We get back to camp, and Mike goes, "Let's go down the Buckeye Trail." We go in about 90 paces, stop, looking around. A stone or a nut came up flying by us. We waited a little bit, go down 90 more paces, looking around, listening. A stone or nut come up again. Did another 90 paces, same thing. Debbie says, "I'm getting scared." I says, "Come on, let's go up." We went up another 90 paces, same thing started happening. Debbie said, "I ain't going no farther." I said, "Stay here with Mike. Give me that scope you have, and let me use it. I'll go down." And I went down about 100 paces. And I kneeled down. I'm adjusting the scope like this here, and out of the corner of my right eye, I saw a little movement. I turned and looked. About 15 feet, right inside the wood line, there one was, leaned in, looking at me like this. I stood up, it stood up. I panicked. It's like, holy cow. And I'm looking at it, and I wouldn't look in the eyes, but I looked at the head, and I can see the brow ridge, which is really thick and protruding. It had a big flat nose. The skin tone was very dark brown. The hair was dark brown. And it's standing there, and I see right next to the tree about where it was standing. And all I can think of is, he could get me. I backpedaled. Actually, I ran backwards without looking back. And now this was at dusk, so it's getting dark, but it's darker right inside the wood line. So I'm yelling for Mike to turn the lights on. I'm going, "Lights, lights," and he's wondering what I was saying. Then he realized, he turned his big spotlight on, he's seen it, and he's shining the light on it as it's going down over the hill through the woods. And I go, "Did you see it? Did you see it?" I saw Bigfoot's butt. And I'm looking at him like, "What?" He says, "Yeah, I seen it. It was going down over the hill." And the reason he said it like that to me was to calm me down, because he says, "You were up here with adrenaline and fear." And it did bring me down. He goes, "You want to go see if we can track it?" And I went, "No, I don't." I already had this closeness. No, I don't. I did not. Now it's dark. I don't want to go in there. It's around 7 foot tall. It is definitely all 4 foot wide. The muscle tones were humongous. Didn't look like a neck. It was all trapeze muscles. But the legs, they seemed underdeveloped. So I'm thinking it was a juvenile. Just trying to get in as close to me as possible without me noticing it. I really do believe that. And it didn't put off no smell. I didn't hear it come in there. I talked to several people and said, why didn't I hear it going through the woods? Because it was like total silence. They go, fear shuts off a lot of your senses. And that's probably what happened. Your senses shut down with your hearing. And I did some research on that and found out that can be true. If it was aggressive, I definitely wouldn't be here right now, because there's no way I could have survived an attack by one.
What is your personal opinion on what exactly Bigfoot is?
I presume from what I saw, flesh and blood. I can't say they're extraterrestrial because I don't know. From what I saw, it looked flesh and blood, looked somewhat primate, somewhat human. I cannot say they jumped through portals because I never seen that. I've seen tracks where in the wintertime walking in the snow, all of a sudden they're gone, right in the middle of a field. Where'd they go? You know, so is it extraterrestrial? They got beamed up? Did they jump through a portal? I don't know. A lot of the presentations I do when I speak at events, I ask people what do they think they are. And the biggest majority think they're flesh and blood. The smaller percentage is extraterrestrial and interdimensional. And those three aspects don't mingle good together. They get in big arguments. And I tell them to stop the arguing, share the evidence, and share the knowledge, and let's figure it out together, because we all might be wrong.
Could you tell me more about the Agents of the Unexplained?
We're a research and investigating group, cryptid and paranormal. We have done hundreds of investigating of sightings from Bigfoot, Dogman, Thunderbird, ghosts, UFOs. We have casted prints, we have documented structures, so we can keep record and check, see if there's any other sightings, whatever, in that area. Since I got into researching, I say share the knowledge. I said it from day one, share the knowledge. That's how we're going to learn.
You were talking about how you were hosting an event. Could you talk more about that?
Yeah, this will be the third year. It's called the Ohio Paranormal Conference. It's going to be in Brookfield, Ohio. It's going to be March 29th. It's being billed as the largest cryptid paranormal conference in Western PA, Eastern Ohio, and West Virginia. We're going to have like 100 vendors, 5 speakers. We're going to have some special guest appearances from some celebrities. $10 per person to get in. Kids 12 and under are free. This year I got some very, very intelligent people and researchers coming.
Was there anything else you wanted to specifically mention or talk about?
My podcast. I got a lot of different people that come on from different fields. That's why I started my podcast, so I can learn. And yes, you can teach an old dog new tricks. I'm the old dog.
Thank you so much for your interview. I appreciate you taking time out of your day. Check out his podcast and look into the event. Thank you.
Thank you.
On the other side of the state lies the Pocono Mountains. The Poconos has a history of paranormal activity and strange stories. including UFOs, hauntings, lake monsters, and Bigfoot. One such location for this paranormal activity is Austin T. Blakeslee Natural Area in the town of Blakeslee in Monroe County.
Here we are in Austin T. Blakeslee Natural Area, just outside of the small town of Blakeslee, Pennsylvania, where in 1970, a report of a strange ape-like creature came out of these very woods. It was known as the White Bigfoot of Blakeslee. It was described as being a 6 to 7 foot tall Bigfoot-like creature with broad shoulders and dirty white fur. Similar sightings of white Bigfoots have been reported all across the United States, and they may shed light on the identity of Bigfoot himself. There's a genetic mutation known as albinism, which causes those who carry the mutation to have a complete lack of pigment, making them appear completely white. Examples of this include albino alligators, albino snakes, and even albino humans. And this may give credence to the idea that Bigfoot is a flesh and blood hominid species living in North America. Will we ever know the true origins of these albino Bigfoot? We may never know. At MonsterFest 2023 in Canton, Ohio, which we visited in Season 1, Episode 11, the Festival Special, we had the opportunity to interview Bigfoot researcher, co-host of the Animal Planet hit TV series Finding Bigfoot, and the curator of the North American Bigfoot Center in Boring, Oregon, Cliff Barackman.
What first got you interested in cryptozoology?
I grew up in the 1970s, and I was subjected to all sorts of early schlockumentaries, like In Search of, and Legend of Boggy Creek, and all that sort of stuff. So I've had an interest in monsters all my life. But it was actually the scientific literature. It was a couple books that were collections of scholarly journal articles written by scientists about Sasquatches that made me realize, like, holy smokes! Not only are these fun and quirky monsters, but they're probably real animals as well. And so I started doing my own field research at that time, back in the early 1990s.
What's your specific opinion on the Bigfoot phenomenon?
Sasquatches are real animals. I mean, period. The evidence clearly states it. I've seen one myself. I've tracked them, I've smelled them, I've been screamed at, I've had rocks thrown at me. You just go down the list. I've experienced and seen too much to have any other opinion about them except that they are perfectly normal, real animals.
Of the various types of Bigfoot, how would you classify them?
As far as I know, there's only one type of Bigfoot, at least in North America, I should say. The evidence in Florida matches the evidence in British Columbia, for example. People say there's different species and stuff in North America based on color and size and behavior, but that does not make a new species. Like, for example, I've got white hair, it used to be kind of brown hair. I know people who have black hair. I know people who are blonde. Same species. Different sizes, Bobo and I. Enormously different temperaments and sizes, same species theoretically. So I don't think there's any reason to think that there's more than one species here in North America, but in the other parts of the world, there are other hairy hominoids that are still undiscovered and mystery animals. Maybe those are different, maybe those are the same. We don't know enough about our own, so it's hard to say much about them.
How might you be able to scientifically explain a few of the more unusual features and behaviors of Bigfoot?
What, like?
Like how their eye shine works.
Eye shine.
Different numbers of toes, things like that.
Eye shine is, there's a lot of different ideas about the eye shine thing. They may have what's called a tapetum lucidum, which is what most nocturnal animals have. It's a reflective layer on the back of their retina. If so, they'd be one of the only primate species to have that, but there's no reason they there's no reason they couldn't have developed that. I think another very reasonable hypothesis is that their eyes are just built a little differently. For example, owls have eyes that are different shapes than human beings, and that helps the light gathering capabilities of their eyes. And when you consider the size of the Sasquatches themselves, they're very large animals, their eyes are clearly larger than ours, right? And at most close eyewitnesses don't report a sclera. The sclera is the white part of your eyes. They just see it's all brown usually. So sometimes other colors, but usually brown. So they have a much larger eye, and it's mostly taken up by the iris, which would be the brown part. The iris is a muscle in your eye, and its purpose is to open and close and also focus. But the opening of the aperture of the eye and the closing of the aperture of the eye is based on light in our environments. So in complete darkness, the aperture would be very, very wide, which is probably significantly larger than in human eyes. Now, we've all taken flash pictures of our family or whatever at Christmas, and the eyes reflect back red. That is because the flashlight is reflecting on the back of the retina as red, and those are blood vessels in the back of the eye. I am hypothesizing that the Sasquatch eye is very, very good at light gathering, has a much larger aperture, and in extremely low light conditions, what you're seeing, the red eye shine, is probably just a slight, ever so slight reflection on the back of the eye, and it is red for the same reason it is in humans. It's reflecting back from the blood vessels in the back of the retina. And in zero or close to zero light conditions, that would seem very, very bright.
There's all sorts of different types of Bigfoot that have like different numbers of toes in their tracks and things like that.
No, Sasquatches have 5 toes, period, and 5 digits on their hands as well. In fact, dolphins and whales have that same number. It's a mammal thing. The vast majority of mammals have that as their case as well. What happens is that when they're walking, see, the problem is people, it's our way of thinking about things. The Sasquatch footprint is not the shape of the Sasquatch foot. It is the shape of the damage done to the ground by the Sasquatch foot as the thing walks by. It is not a cookie cutter stamp of what the foot looks like. It's the damage. It's the interaction of the muscles, the bones, the tendons as the thing shifts its weight across the substrate and moves on. So when you get Sasquatch prints that have maybe 3 toes or something like that, it's because the other toes didn't register. Their toes, or feet in general, are probably about as malleable and bendy as our hands are. And that's interacting with the ground as it moves across. So if there's fewer toes, one of a few things is possible. Either their toes didn't register, or there's something in the way and push the toe in a different direction. I have several footprint casts. In fact, I cast one last week just like that. Or, third possibility, fake. Because fake wooden stompers very often leave 3 or 4 toed tracks because of the way people run in fake wooden planks. Pop, pop, pop. The way they do it is they push off because they push off the main forces between their hallux and the second digit. And when you do that, it kind of rolls in a certain way, and those would be the deepest imprints on the fake impression, and the pinky toes, the little toes, don't register. So those are the explanations. The Sasquatch feet are very, very malleable and bendy, and therefore not all the toes register all the time. There's something in the way of some of the toes registering, kind of the same thing, or they're just fake. But 6-toed prints, the way to explain the 6-toed prints is double hits. When a Sasquatch is walking, if one of their toes slips or pushes and something slides, sometimes you can get double hits. 6-toed prints, they don't exist. Not real ones, at least.
What would you consider to be your most compelling Bigfoot experience?
I've got a whole lot of Bigfoot experiences, so it's kind of hard to say. I mean, I saw one, that was cool. Last week I cast footprints on a property where the property owners haven't been home since December, which is why I went there. But I don't know, I found handprints in May. That was really amazing. I've got a lot of things that I find to be very compelling, but there's no reason you should, unfortunately, because you weren't there. I documented the evidence. It's out there available for weighing against other evidence, but really, it's compelling to me, but that doesn't mean it's compelling to anybody else.
What's your favorite Bigfoot account?
My favorite Bigfoot account of my own, In general, sometimes you hear a story that's cooler than others. Like we interviewed this lady named Barbara who got screamed at by 3 of them nearby, and it scared the heck out of her. That was pretty cool. But at the end of the day, after 29 years, it's just another Bigfoot report. I don't put a lot of weight on Bigfoot reports because that's not my area of focus, because people are so fallible. They have poor observation skills. Their language skills sometimes don't weigh in, aren't up to snuff to share their experience appropriately. And then, of course, I have to listen to it, which means that I have my own interpretations going on, my own filters, and am I understanding them the way they intended or not? You see, there's a lot of filters between me and the actual sighting, so I don't put a lot of weight on on sightings in general. To me, sightings aren't the end. Sightings are a signpost to tell me where to go to look for Sasquatches and maybe see one for myself.
If you were to give advice to a starting cryptozoologist, what would it be?
The number one advice I give to any starting cryptozoologist is read books. Don't learn about Sasquatch from television. Don't learn about Sasquatch from the internet. Don't learn about Sasquatches from YouTube. Read books. Read books by credentialed scientists who know what they're talking about. Dr. Meldrum is chief among them. He's an anatomist who specializes in primate foot anatomy. Read his stuff. Read the stuff by Dr. John Bindernagel. Read the stuff by the early researchers like John Green, who spent so much of his life chronicling this sort of thing. My advice, the number one piece of advice, which most people will not follow, read books.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks for watching, and to watch our previous and future episodes, visit the Cryptid Creatures YouTube channel. Like, subscribe, and tell your friends. Cryptid Creatures is brought to you by the Kitty Petters Union, Cobble Sound Recording Company, and my dad's show, Meet the Pressers. This is Cryptid Creatures with Augie Macro, signing off.